The first time you launch any application and look at its interface, it can be kind of scary, and Final Cut Pro is no exception. So let's take a quick moment and get an overview of the main windows inside of Final Cut Pro. The first window we're going to look at is our browser in the upper left-hand corner. Now the browser is where we organize all the media that we're going to use to create our show. And there's three basic types of media that you're going to work with in your program: video files, audio files, and images. If we look at our video file folder, and in Final Cut Pro this is called a bin, and it goes back to the days of film. So in our video bin, we see a variety of clips, and the icon next to them looks like a 35mm film strip. If we move up to the top bin, labeled audio, we see a different icon. This icon looks like a speaker. But note that if you look at the names or the end of the names on each of these files, you see both WAV and AIF. Final Cut Pro can use a variety of audio formats. In this case, we have a WAV file and an AIF file. And finally, in our images bin, you see yet another icon. And this looks like the film clip with the letters A, B, C on it. Now, if we look closely, we see that Final Cut can use different types of still images. We can use a TIFF image, PNG, as well as JPEGs. In addition to those file types, Final Cut can use any still image file type that QuickTime can read. You'll also notice there's a fourth item in here with a different icon, and it's labeled .psd. This stands for a Photoshop document. Final Cut Pro can use Photoshop documents quite well. As a matter of fact, if you've ever used Photoshop, you may have discovered that Photoshop can save each element as a separate layer. When brought into Final Cut Pro, you can access these layers and modify them individually. The final element we're going to look at in our browser is the sequence or timeline, and it has a similar icon to that of the .psd file. Moving on to the viewer, let's grab a clip, drag it into the viewer, and take a look at what happens in our viewer window. Think of the viewer window as a sandbox where you can choose what part of a clip you want to put into your show. You'll be marking in an in point, an out point. You can also modify the clip by adding filters to change its color, using a color corrector filter, or maybe even modifying the audio by making it louder, softer, or adding plugins to give it an effect such as reverb. To the right of the viewer window is our canvas window, and the canvas window represents what your viewer sees when watching your program.
It's the most unforgiving place on Earth. Over 3.5 million square miles.
All the special effects, all your sound effects, all your titles are seen here in the canvas window when you play back your show. Now in the bottom of the interface, you see it says timeline, and the timeline is simply a graphical representation of what is being shown in your canvas window. It has 99 video tracks and up to 99 audio tracks, and if you notice, when I play the timeline by hitting the space bar,
A vast wilderness. It's the Sahara Desert.
you'll notice as I play this, you can see it graphically happen in the timeline, and then you can visually see what's happening in the canvas. Finally, the last two windows that we're going to look at are our tool palette, and you're probably familiar with a tool palette from your word processing program. Here you can select different tools so you can do different activities within your timeline, selecting all of a clip, selecting part of a clip, cutting clips in half, but we'll go more into the tool palette later on in the lessons. And finally, we have our audio meters. The audio meters allow us to see the volume of our sound, if it's too loud, if it's too soft, or maybe if it's overmodulated. Let's go ahead and play the timeline, and you can take a look at the audio meters.
With people and cultures as unpredictable as the landscape.
Well, there you have it. A quick overview of the Final Cut Pro interface.